We continue from where we left off this morning, and we talk about the life of our Lord Jesus Christ from Gospel Luke chapter 2 and first part chapter 3, onwards, that tells us in chapter 3 about him from 7-month-old, 12 years old, and then 30 years old. But we added one which is between 25 and 29. These are like important episodes in Jesus' life, and whatever happened to him is a teaching to us of what we must have. So, like for example, Jesus grew in stature and in the spirit, filled with wisdom. It means he grew spiritually and naturally. And so we need to follow the same line and balance between them. And so there's when he was 12 to 24, it's mainly interaction time. Interact with the leaders, religious leaders, his parents. He has to balance the interaction to know that that's a time interaction, learning, acquiring, asking questions. There's not time. You see, if you do the wrong thing at the wrong time, then you're just out of sync. And you notice, even though he's intelligent, he didn't do it like he was here when he confronted the Pharisees. And he didn't talk to the parents like he was here, because he's here. So he yielded and submitted to his parents. Because it's a time of interaction which all of us need to learn. The other thing I did not mention this morning is these are actually step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. You cannot get to step 2 before step 1, and step 3 before step 1 and 2, step 4 before 1, 2, and 3. And they need to be in order. So we talk about here is development of spirit, soul, and body, SSB. And then SSB, sounds like Singapore Bus Service. Oh, that's SBS. Wrong one. Okay, it's SSB. Okay, so it looks very familiar. Oh, the former one SBS. But I think they've changed all the names by now. Interaction, I will talk about how we got to acquire different things. And also from our memories, we must acquire abilities and experience and all those things. The basic thing that we are, Jesus as he was learning to relate to everyone around him, and so he's acquiring, his A is acquiring, L is learning, M is memory. So he was acquiring knowledge, asking questions, and all those things. And here we think about authority versus a freedom, the balance that is there. Jesus has authority, spiritual authority, but he was not free to exercise fully yet. He knew how to balance it. And so later on, when he was a full adult, he exercised his authority. Remember, his mother and brothers wanted to see him, because by that time his father already died early. Joseph actually died earlier. And before Jesus' ministry, Joseph already died. And that's why I don't see him mentioned during Jesus' ministry time. And we say that this section here is because we are on the theme of first love. And I asked and sought the Lord, why some people cannot love with first love? Why some people's love are not passionate? Why can't they love another person better than they should have? And the Lord says the problem points back to all these areas. That Jesus didn't have a problem. It's because, number one, the Lord says, their spirit, their soul, their body hasn't grown. Sometimes their body grows. But your spirit inside is still like a child. Your body might be 40 years old. Your soul might only be 10 years old. So that would be sad. Right? So definitely you don't know how to love people. Ask a 10-year-old to learn how to love people. Can they? Cannot. Or ask a kid who is 8-year-old to love people. It's going to be very hard also. Because they haven't learned. They have not learned how to really love yet. Whatever love they had is more a bit of self-involved and a bit of one thing. And isn't that what a lot of people's love are like? Like they got stunted at 8 years old, 10 years old, and they never grew beyond that, and never learned all the dynamics of relationships. Because we learn love from relationships. And that's important for us to know. So I realized, wow, it goes very deep, which means the answer is not going to come that fast. It might take 5 years of training, 10 years of training. But don't worry, we got 45 years, so 10 is quite okay for me. But make sure you grow to love fast. Don't, after the tsunami, glorious church, and then you still behave very differently. We have to grow. There is still sufficient time to grow. The faster, the better. Once we know all these, we can learn, go back and learn these things. So these are actual things that Jesus actually have to learn himself. Even he himself has to learn. The difference between having authority and having freedom. And he used his freedom 3 days. Wow, 3 days without his parents holding him back. Oh, he was enjoying himself. And when they found him, he was enjoying himself. He said, I must be about my father's business. So he knew some level of freedom. Then he got restricted, so he went along. But he knew that it was not time yet. He must learn how to abide with authority. See, some of us, we react to authority differently. We see authority, we run. But then, you don't realize that depending on who is holding the authority. And then you can see authority and respect it, but no need to run away from it. And think about it this way. The religious leaders that Jesus was sitting down with are part of the Sanhedrin Council. Most people don't dare to talk to them. But there is Jesus, and he's asking them questions. There's a bold boy. He was bold to ask those things. And would you be bold to approach a policeman to ask for certain help? You should, if you really need help. So all these things are important in developing ourselves, or the use of our freedom. What do you do when you are free? All these determine our first love. How much we can grow in having first love for God. So learning from Jesus' life himself. And then what about this stage which we have put in called preparation before ministry? See, Jesus' life was in a measure of 12, which means that 12, and then the next finished 12, he was 24. And when he was 25 to 29, which is 5 years, he had this preparation period. We knew that he went to build altars. He took about 2-3 trips out. If you want to be specific, 3. But in more details, it's 2 long ones and 1 short one. And so he had this preparation trip for 5 years. Then his ministry lasted 3 years. So altogether, there were 8 more years here after the cycle of 12 plus 12. And so what happened here in this preparation phase? It's not in the Bible, but we know about that. Jesus Christ was, Jesus learned, he went to visit his disciples before the disciples met him. In fact, some never recognized him because when he was visiting them in incognito. And then he went altar building, the same places that Enoch and Elijah and all these Abraham all built altars. He went, and Jesus built altars and prayed and sought the Father. This is a preparation phase. How do we define what he was doing? What was happening? Jesus was learning to become who he is. Who he is. And part of being able to be confident enough to love another person or receive a person's love is to know who you are. When you're not sure who you are, still in the discovering phase, it's hard to help someone, to love someone from a very stable place. Because to love is to help, to give. And when you are stable yourself, then you can help stabilize others. But when you're not stable, you cannot stabilize others. So the principle behind section 3 is to discover and to know your own identity, who you are. And every child, when they grow, they are learning who they are. They might have many dreams and ambitions. They want to be this, want to be that. But it slowly stabilizes. And they slowly learn who they are. That is the who of their destiny. Not just the simple, what their names are, all those things. But really who they are. And when it applied to not just ministry, it applied to the secular world. Who you are. Because when you know who you are, you know what you want to do. Sometimes you discover who you are from what you do, or what you want to do. Like for example, is an architect first before he became an architect? So which person came first? The person who knows that their calling is to be an architect, and then goes to architectural school to qualify themselves? Or did the qualification make them who they are? That preparation phase is where you go to university, where you go to places, and it is a progressive, which means if you haven't developed your spirit, soul, and body to be wholesome, it's going to affect who you are. Because forever there's some damage in your life, and let's say your insecurity and fear. But your love to be an architect is still there. You believe you'll be one of the best architects. But out of that fear, out of that holding back of yourself, you might become an architect. But instead of being what I call exploratory architect who is adventurous, you become just a very cautious architect that, you say, what do you want to design? I want to design bomb shelters. If there's such a thing. But, or rather, things that very conscious, and you will express yourself that way. So we wonder, how do you become that way? Why do you keep inward looking rather than outward looking? All these factors begin to affect who you really are. Which means that there could be people right now, full adults, because of some damage in their earlier years, they might think they know who they are, but they're not really who they are yet. What they know of themselves and what others see of them is not the full who they are. It's only a little bit. Now, if that is the case, this person will also not be able to love freely. Love God or love people freely. Because there's a part of them that every time they go and do this architectural work, then they come back, they feel this dissatisfaction. Feel like something's not fulfilled. They wonder why. And then nobody just starts their own firm. Usually you work for somebody else first. And everywhere you go, anywhere you place, there will always be authority figures. Cannot run from that. So you join an architectural firm, there are people above you in authority. And so because you don't know how to respect authority, no one likes you. So you're always given a menial job, just like a draftsman's job. And you say, wow, this is a draftsman's job, I should be designing greater things. And because nobody likes you. And out of that personality, you never got a chance. Never could expand your wings, never grow further. And again, you're stuck because of something here. You haven't learned balance between authority and freedom. Here is balance between the spiritual and the natural. And or you could be a dreamy architect, and you got this, but you're not grounded very well in natural. And an architect can draw. You can draw anything, right? I can draw concepts of how you press. You go. You know how you go. You can today go into an elevator and go nearly 1 kilometer up at Burj Khalifa in Dubai. That's 1 kilometer. That's very fast lift. Shoom. So imagine, you can press the lift, and then you go further than that. Then you go zoom, you come out, it's a space station. Wouldn't that be interesting? Take a lift all the way, no need rockets, anything. And that is possible to engineer, possible to draw, but very hard to build. Very hard to build. Firstly, what kind of material can be strong enough to link some space station out there to the planet Earth? You need a physical link because you're operating a lift. So the lift has to turn on the chains or the lever to climb up, climb down. Or they have to use a different system. It cannot be weights anymore, like normal. So it has to be something that can cling on and then come back down, through chains and all these things, and levers and gears. It is possible. And today they think that nanocarbon is the strongest material. It has to be a material that is strong and super light. Because the longer the chain, the heavier the chain. And the weight is tremendous. By the time, the change weight itself is very tremendous. And then what a wind factor, rotation of the Earth, all those things to calculate. See, we can draw. You can draw. Today, people can draw space station. I have a concept of a space station that will be very nice because you know why? Space station should not be without gravity. And since we haven't learned how to create artificial gravity yet, we have to create the conventional old method of rotation. So when you rotate something and you live inside it, you will have what I call what force is that? Centripetal and centrifugal. This one will be centrifugal force that throws you out. So the centrifugal force, if you're inside it, the centrifugal force will be outside. So you could do something like, this is just a playful drawing here. Let's do something like that. No, don't worry, we're not going to have a COG space station. Wasting money. So no, not for us, right? But I think long ago somebody did draw that kind of drawing where it cannot rotate too fast and the gravitational force inside is too strong. And and you have many wheels, many layers of wheels, and it will be turning. So as it turns, it generates a centrifugal force, which actually will be pushing it out this way. So anywhere on the inside, it turns you out this way, and then so the human beings will actually be like upside down this way. So they can walk around the station. I think somebody already might have drawn that concept. So then the humans have some gravity. We need a bit of gravity in order to function. So you have a space station that spins. And of course, you will have spokes that join to the center. And then when a rocket comes, this is the parking space for all the rockets. And the rockets would have parking space because at the center will be no gravity. Or no felt gravity. After all, gravity is just a force. And so you park your thing here, then you'll be floating before you feel the centrifugal force. And then the further out you are, the centrifugal force is greater. So this is based on science. So if this is the center, and I just want to illustrate something. This is the center X. At X point, because it's the place of rotation, there will be, you won't feel the gravity. So out here, if you put a bit of water, the water will fall down this way. And so you can even have one section with a swimming pool, and people can swim here. Hallelujah. So, and the water will be just like, the water will be curved kind of thing. And so, when you come here, then you slow, it is very little, then it increases, and then it becomes strongest at the edge. And So the further out you build out, then you can amortize, calculate the amount of things. See, easy to draw, but it will probably cost $100 billion. Also, we don't have the materials. Also, there is not enough ways that we could send all the parts and build, engineer all the parts. And don't forget, humans suffer from wear and tear. How are you going to engineer each part? Everything must be like Lego. You must really plan properly so that it just slot in for outer space. It's not so easy. Then don't forget, after that, we have to think about radiation shield. And then you have to talk about how to have a constant supply of food. So you have to have a gardening section, you know. Then you talk about garden. Then you think about where to produce the light. So today, they got artificial light. That can actually produce and increase in a plant and plant internal. And then inside you got to create a system of 24 hours so the human body is used to. This is just to show can draw, but might be impossible to build, kind of thing. Oops. Okay, what did I do to that? Okay, back to it. I wanted to get back to here. Yes. And so what we have is where there is to be something that is spiritual, from the dreams, have to meet with true reality. It's a balance. And so it depends on how much all those things have effect to create who we are in order to relate to other people. If one of these areas is off-center or two of these are off-center, you will be off-center in your relationship with people. Because everything you do, everything you say, everything you are, come from who you are. And you're building who you are. By this stage, you discover who you are. But here is the thing about love. What is the principle that we are dealing with here? The principle here is between who you are, maybe I use a short acronym, who you are versus who others are. What's your estimate of them? Who are they to you? If you don't pass the second stage between authority and freedom, you do not, let's look at this area. There's you notice that this box that I left, that's very important. And this last box, let me use a different color. There should be a green somewhere. Oops, I'm too much at the ending. Green, dark green, light green, yep. Okay. In the first box, between the spiritual and the natural, is what I call, you have to learn about truth, laws of the spirit, and laws of nature. Truth, which means principles. True principles that will guide your life. Do you know every one of us has principles? Like, why don't we steal? Because our principle is that we will not steal. Or when you're, for example, some of our principles are much stronger. Like, for example, in your office, when you work in your office, and you know that everything belongs to your office. So, until your office provides you with certain things, you will not take something from your office. And if you do, you will ask permission. But you will not take something from your office, or things from your office, and then build an office space in your own house for yourself. Some people don't have principles, they do that. To me, if you want to do that, ask the office whether you could use the office thing. If the office, has a rule or regulation. But then, you definitely cannot, some people might say, oh, taking a pencil is okay. Taking a rubber is okay. taking one pen won't hurt. For me, no, a principle is a principle. So it depends how a principle apply. You see, what keeps us ethical are principles. What keeps us ethical is not because there's always a policeman watching you. Because there are not enough policemen if every citizen disobeys the law. But what keeps us is the principles the citizens have learned, acquired, and make it part of their life. So much so that, for example, if you are in a classroom, a university, and then there's a $10 note left on there. And in a university, classes go in and out. Do you just take that money and say, "Thank you, Lord"? See, you can even Christianize the whole thing. Or you could look at it and say, this belongs to someone. If there was a wallet with it, obvious. But if it's by itself, then the best you could do, record the place, the classroom, and the time you found it. Because these three things are helpful to find the owner. And then report to the lost and found. Say, I found this. Hope somebody finds what they lost. But $10 is $10. Nobody remembers the serial number or the last $10 note they used. Do you remember? So, although each note has a serial number, nobody remembers the serial number. But that $10 does belong to somebody. So it depends on your ethical level. I do know there are some Christians who say, "Hallelujah, God provided," and went and spent it. Then somebody else has lost their money. But the ethics, the principles that you were brought up with, might tell you, take that, let it be with somebody. And then there's a general lost and found rule, even in street and everything, that after a certain amount of time, there's some sub-law or some sub-clause or something among the police and all that, then, and nobody claims it, then it belongs to the finder. So you might say, finders, keepers. Not immediately. Not immediately. At the end of the day, when nobody has it, it either goes to charity or to the person who found it. There are laws set for that. And these are what keeps us who we are. And it's based on those laws that all relationships are founded. Based on law. Like, for example, if you stay in a person's house, right? So depend on your nature and your character. Like, and then talk about love, growing in love, and having first love for God. Then, would you, say, "Oh, I know this person," and you wander about the house anywhere. Then some rooms are locked, some rooms are not locked. But even if they're not locked, it doesn't give liberty to go there. Some people will not go because it's locked. Some people will not go because that is privacy. And you want to do that, you ask for permission. But I notice people got different levels of permission. Some people ask first, some don't ask. Like, for example, I have a library in my Sydney home, and a whole room all full of books. So people used to come and sit around, fellowship in a hall. It's a different place. And then we have a hallway divided between the two. It's a very old house, old rental house. And then I noticed that some people, when they want to see my library, they ask. They say, "Can I have permission?" And I said, "Sure." And then, because they know me, they know I very seldom say no to simple things like that. But taking a book home, that's different. But having a look at the book is different. And sometimes, because I travel a lot, like right now, right, my apartment is a mess because I've just been, I even forgot what I have. I've just left and then came back, dropped the things, and then packed the next bag, go to the Jordan, And then came back, dropped everything, the series of meetings. And the only thing good I've done is that all the clothes are washed. And so there's not a big pile of laundry. But the things that sometimes people give me, this and that, I got this bag, this bag, this bag. I got a whole table full of things that I don't know what that is, right? I only discover it's food sometimes when I smell. So you need to tell me if it's food, right? Otherwise you sit there for 3 months instead of in the fridge. And so only one time it occurred. You know, I don't know what is that. I just drop it. I came back from US, there's a smell there, right? So I said, oh, they didn't tell me it's food, all right, okay, or perishables or whatever. And so I won't have time to clean until November. And I planned that in December I'll give the whole house a good thorough wash, because when the house is empty for 2 months, while in US, everything looks different. And even the towels look different. And the white lines are now beginning to look not so white. Yeah. Not just gray, black. Seems to have some sort of mold growing on it. So I'm not going to live with this mold. Right? By Christmas, you'll be gone. So I really got all my materials for the anti-mold this, anti-that, and all that. So one fine day in December, I will go spray everything. And there's the mildew killer and all those things like that. But they really, they love to grow when no humans are around. And so I'm talking about, coming and going, all those things, that we all have principles. And it's the principles that guide us. So then I jump straight to the sitting house. Then I noticed some of the people who come never ask permission one. Just wander into the study. So I say, oh, okay. And then I say, I don't necessarily welcome everybody to read on my book. Plus, before I let people go, because my Sydney place house is the same. I just dump the thing and then preach, travel. If we're very busy, then go. Say, I'll see you in the next trip back. Kind of thing. I tell my things. I got no time to arrange. And so sometimes it starts piling up and then go to clear again. Start piling up, go to clear again. And then sometimes I got very important things all over the place. Documents, this and that to look through. And so it's not ready for somebody to visit or enter the room. So it's obvious that people grow up differently. But here's the thing. A person who is who they are. Like, there is this real true story of these two Christians who stay together. And then when they stay together, when you're under the same roof, then you realize who they are. When you don't stay under the same roof, you only see who they are that they presented to you. So when you stay in the same roof, then you really know a person is who they are. Now, some people are very consistent, some are not so consistent. And so this group of people are staying together, and it was a book written by this person, so he was describing the other guy. He says, this guy, one fine day, he comes, he's wearing his shirt. I tell you, that is a very intimate thing. You go to somebody's cupboard, took their shirt and wore. Why? Share alike. So, didn't he ask for permission? Whether he could use it? He said, we all brothers, man. As long as it fits, you can have mine too, kind of thing. And then I said, wow, this kind of person. Because he has a different ethical level from the other guy. And then later on, he realized, he was writing a book about love, actually. Then he realized, this person also shares easily. This person got no sense of ownership, and he felt that the ownership of everyone is shared. But the fact is, this person is not lying. He's living the life that who he is. And then he found one thing, and he says, hey, why this person doesn't have as much clothes as him? Whereas he got lots of clothes. Some of the clothes have never been worn. The last time worn was 1952, or rather 10 years ago. So, and then he's collecting all those things, and then maybe once in a blue moon, then they give to Salvation Army. And then this person got just less clothes. Then he say, Cannot be. How can he? And then this person earns a good living too. It's not that the person is poor. And so, you know what he found out? This person is true to himself. Whenever he found that he doesn't wear anything for a month or so, he gives it away. He said, take, what is mine is yours. Yeah, here, have it. And so, then he discovered, when bad times strike this guy, and literally goes through a bad time, this guy literally says, take anything from the cupboard, please, please. So he actually did to others as he like others to do to him. Except that his level of sharing was greater than this other guy who was more privacy. And so, strong point is a weak point is a strong point. Because of the way your truths and principles guided you. So the question you sometimes have to ask is this, the more important question is this person true to themselves? Or rather, the person is plastic. They paint one picture, the other person is inside is a different person. That would be like the leaven of the Pharisees. Hypocrisy. But if a person is true to themselves, then actually the person has some principles that guided them. You might agree or disagree, but it's what makes that person the person. The uniqueness. So you ask yourself, okay, should I change him to become like me? Or should I change to become like that person? That is the question for this afternoon. And that is a question that many couples are still working out. Because some say, hey, it's so different. Ha! Why didn't I discover this before? Okay. They are true to themselves. I don't think people genuinely, good people, I don't think they lie or try to hide anything. But they each have their principles that they are brought up with. And I notice, you can notice little things about different people. And I noticed that different hosts at times. I've been taken out by many hosts before. But this host, and he's not with us, I mean, he's in another church. And I noticed, every time he takes us out, I would see him, he would divide the food up into portions. To make sure everybody got their portion. And when it was chicken rice, he divides it up. Everybody got their plate of rice. But not everybody is, let's say, having the same piece of chicken. So I could see him divide up. He take this, take that, take that. I said, well, this guy is a divider. Good one, a good one. He makes sure everybody got a portion. Whereas some people, when they eat, they would just leave it on the plate and everybody eats as accordingly. But even that got other principle. Because some people, they only eat because they're hungry. Some people, they might be hungry, but they eat according to what is left. That means, if I look at it and say, if I take this, it's not enough for everybody, so you refrain from doing. And you wait till someone called the divider comes. Or whatever it was. Or let's say we have a buffet. And let's say when the buffet, people will calculate. And like, for example, and let's say they might have giant prawns. You think the buffet is going to give unlimited giant prawns? No. They're going to probably calculate how many people you cater for. Okay, you cater for 44. Okay, there might be exactly only 88. So when you look at it, the first thing you realize is, it's most likely 2 per person. And then, although you got a lot of buffet, and again, different items come in. You come there, and we are talking about love. Practical love. Not some, airy-fairy, I love you with the love of the Lord. And I can't see the Lord, so I don't know how I love you, but I still love you. And then comes the practical thing, we don't seem very loving. And then, so, like many of us like seafood. So here people are different ethics. One person comes, let's call it brother A, and looks, and he loves seafood. He say, wow, so many dishes. I think everybody will take all that. Some will eat this, some will never eat. So he takes 10 prawns. Plate full of prawns. And that's all he eat. Doesn't like eating. He say, oh, because I don't eat. And he feels this way. His ethical reasoning is it. After all, I give up my portion of chicken. I gave my portion of roast pork. So I only eat this. But he doesn't know. It's 2 per person. Whether you like chicken, don't like chicken, whether you give up the other thing, it's no different. This one got limited supply. And but that is brother A's ethics and reasoning based on this. Why? From and then you analyze. Okay, so let's say we could analyze, and then we peel a layer of his DNA, put a microscope, look, why are you behaving that way? And then suddenly we see images of him growing up and growing up in poverty, always not enough to eat. And then every time the food that is there, the parents are also selfish parents. If they have a divider as a parent, wow, different, he would have inculcated that. But the parents sort of take what they want and then left to the kids. And the kids would take, the kids will do a defensive style. Take all you, don't take all, I can eat first before everybody take me. And then after that, then you see later the person, parents died early, and then got in an orphanage, always not enough food. So the person grew up with this psyche of being protective and survival first at the expense of everybody else. Because if I don't fight for my food, I will go hungry. Nobody's going to care for me. So they grew up with that, and something injured somewhere and came out as this person who will grab what he wants and then worry later consequences. And my thing is, but as he grows, he'll give a reason. Okay, today, I give up my chicken. You get my chicken. Or rather, you say, and let's say there is a lobster day. So cater for 44, only 44 lobsters. So, you go there, and then you grab 5 lobsters. 5. And then you tell the brother B passing by, I took your portion of lobster. You can have my broccoli. Some people like broccoli, whatever. And so it's a funny thing, but it's because we are brought up with different principle. Different principle. You say, how do I am like an internal divider and apportioner. So when I go, I would say, remember what the book of Proverbs say? When the king invites you to eat, put a knife to your own throat. He said, don't indulge and lose your character. Although it's the king's food. So you got to eat proportionately, kind of thing, be a gentleman, And of course, if you're invited by the king, it's obvious, don't steal the king's portion. So, and the king could be sitting very near you. And then the king is about to knife or to poke with a fork, the last piece of phoenix meat. Wow. There's no such thing as phoenix. Okay, let's have let's have some rare bird. Okay, some rare bird they got from the jungle. And then the king is about to poke, but your movements are faster than the king. The king has never need to rush because he's been king all his life, so he always takes time. Then while his fork was about 1.5 feet from the thing, because you eat very fast, and then you go took the king's food. The king stare at you and put a note in his mind. Next time, don't invite this person. I mean, he sits on near you, and then he continue eating, and then there's another special delicacy that comes, and then you not only fork things fast, you scoop fast, and so there is a caviar, and it's the king's favorite. So even though there's enough, but the politeness is there. And just as the king was going to scoop it, you go, wow, 3 scoops. It looks like almost a war on food. And the king put, second reminder, check this guy's background. And so, put a knife to your own throat when you're invited by the king. Because that is telling you, if you want to eat a lot, eat at your own expenses. And don't overdo those things. So, of course, the person who wrote those things most likely could be Solomon or one of his wisdom things. He must see how people eat when there's abundance. And how people behave when there's abundance. And so all this doesn't come from rules. Nobody was given a set of rules. And he said, do this. When you see the king move his fork, everybody's fork retreat. You don't need all these rules. Do you know why? You will have about 100 rules to look at before you eat. And then he said, when the king starts talking, to stop munching so loud. You will have 100 of those rules. There has to be some common sense that guides us. Otherwise, you wonder what else to do. And then you're about to move, and the king hasn't moved yet, but you're the first mover. And your first mover is usually, you could take the piece. But then, as you were moving towards a dish, the king starts moving. But he was 10 seconds slower. And then, by the time the king starts moving, your equidistance to the food was much closer than the king's distance from the food. Fork length. Then you refer, wow, is that a rule? Is it 10-second rule or 5-second rule? Right. And then you wonder, well, what's the rough distance? Too many rules. Too many rules. It has to be common sense. A little ethics or politeness that is there. All this comes from here. Knowledge, principles. That one should know how to create rules. Why do criminals get imprisoned? Because they disobey the laws. But if those laws are written in them, it would never happen. It would never happen in the first place. So laws are not broken because the citizens have an innate sense of what the law is. Something in their conscience. And so these truth and principles need to be gathered. Now here is important. The second one is actually about relationship with parents, whether they are alive or not alive, and relationship with teachers or people higher than you, or trainers or boss or employer, relationship with friends. Because all these play on the principle of authority versus freedom. So, in the end, your ability to grow in first love comes down to the fact to whether you have the ability to relate to people. To relate to people, and how you visualize God in your life. How you think God will treat you. Your own concept of God could be actually messed up by your own principle. Why is it that most of the people who, before they met our Lord Jesus Christ, have a concept of God as a man, big man upstairs with a stick? Why is that a default mode? That there's a God who's seeking to strike them down and punish them. Is that who God is? Or is that human superimposing on God? We know the truth. The truth says God is love. God is not the one with the big stick. If really is a God of big stick, everyone would have been white long ago. But it's our concept of God, because we were all brought up with threats and fears. Have you noticed that some people, they love to use threats very quickly? You don't do this, this will happen. Or parents use fear. You know, better behave yourself. After the whoa man comes after you. Say, what's the whoa man? Oh, the one who collects children. Or whatever, frighten them. So, all manner of things that frighten us. Until when we think about God, the supreme authority, also same thing. Without realizing that He's our Father. We superimpose our image upon God, and thus we cannot love God. We don't understand Him. He is not what we paid Him to be. And come back to this point. I go dress boxes, so I come back to this point here. Who are others to you? How do you treat them? Comes from how you treat your parents, how you treat your loved ones, comes to how you actually relate to your friends. And I always ask people this question. By the time they reach this area in their life to discover who they are, how many friends do you have left? Do you know that this world gets more and more people, the population is increasing, but people are getting lonelier? Because people are not as close as in the villages. People begin to build walls around themselves, sort of protect. But the way the world is going, it's a strange world. Like even in China, it's a strange world now. Like when I heard that, when you are a good Samaritan, you get sued. Because you stop and help, you can get sued. So nobody wants to stop anymore. Or if someone have an accident, they know that if the person leaves, it costs money. So they make sure they run a few more times till he's dead. What? Terrible. What kind of society are we producing? And because people are building walls to protect themselves. Now, in that kind of society, with that kind of upbringing, wouldn't it make it harder for a person to grow in love for others, trust in others, and then to love God? It does. Create more barriers. So something has to break in these areas. Now, we talk about these relationships that we have, and I ask questions like, I know not all parents are perfect and all that, but I say, do you still have a good relationship in general? You say, no, I hate them. Then it will cause you to be very hard to love God with first love. Or if I ask you, with authority figure, are you able to love authority figure, or you have authority figure whom you love and treasure? Say, none. I see authority figure. Oh, run. It's the opposite sense of the Good Samaritan. You see the policeman on the other side of the road, you walk on this side. So, very funny thing. And it comes from their past. And it will affect their first love. We talk about things that will affect the first love. And friends are important. Friends are important. Then you say, I asked you another question. Do you still have good friends left? Or the opposite? Do people consider you a good friend? So if most of the people in truth consider you not a very good friend, something is wrong. Something is wrong. You pray that you have a good friend who tell you the truth. Otherwise, you'll never change. But here's the thing. What happens if they tell you the truth and you don't want to listen? You could be the loser. And there are people in the Bible who have learned what good friendship is. And Chapter 17, verse 17. I give you some scriptures, relationship. A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born out of adversity. You know, in crisis is where you form friendships. Because you know where your enemies are and where your friends are. Not in good times. And do you notice the way a friend loves at all times? And they will always tell you the truth. And what about this kind of friend? Do you have this kind of friend? A man who has friends must himself be friendly. But there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. He's even better than having a blood brother. A physical brother. Having a family is good brothers and sisters. But there are some friendship that far surpass human friendship. You might ask, Pastor, how is that of any value? In 2 Peter chapter 1, tells you grace and peace being multiplied by the knowledge of God and of Jesus Christ. And God who has called us to this virtue. And in verse 5, for this reason, giving all diligence unto your faith, virtue, to virtues, knowledge, to knowledge, self-control, to self-control, perseverance, to perseverance, godliness, to godliness, brotherly kindness, to brotherly kindness, love. What it actually says, to godliness add phileo, to phileo add love, agape. So if you don't have phileo, it's very hard to have agape. You know who is the first who will tell you that? Peter the apostle. When Jesus asked him, do you agapao me? He says, I phileo you. He tells Jesus, I cannot get this concept of love yet. But I love you as a friend and as a brother. It is phileo and as a family. Phileo also includes family love. And says, that's how I can love you. And later on in his life, this same Peter says, same Peter, from phileo you go to agape. And this is the only verse in the Bible like that. In all the other Bibles, you got phileo, agape, phileo, then it's mixed all around. But Peter sees it as a graduation scale. So how can you agapao God if you cannot even phileo God? And didn't Jesus say at the end of his 3 years ministry, you have called me master and you're my disciples. But today he says in John 14:15-16, I call you friends. Because a master does not share to his disciples what he does. But I'm your friend now, I'll tell you what happens. So they graduate into his friendship. And we all know, when God calls you his friend, that's a big title. Because very few people can come to become a friend of God. God chooses his friends carefully, definitely. But the fact is that God wished there were more humans who can rise up to that level. Abraham was called a friend of God. So was Moses in a sense. When Moses was challenged, God says, he's more than a prophet. I speak with him face to face. To prophets, I speak in these mysteries. God says Moses was more than a prophet. What can be more? Love God. Love God as a friend. Love God with first love. So if we don't have friendship love, we don't relate, how do we bring it on to our relationship with God? It's a problem. What about this area? At a certain time in our life, we have to know who we are. And that knowledge K-N-O-W, knowledge, is important. Knowledge of who you are. And there's another word I like to use on that, but let me just leave it at knowledge first. The knowledge of who you are, what your strengths, and what your limitations are is important. It's important. Otherwise, you will be over-pushing and overdoing, or underachieving and underdoing. Knowing who you are, what you can be, what you can do is based on knowing yourself. And you will not push yourself beyond what you know. You will not push yourself. That knowledge is important. Otherwise, when you love God with first love, it's going to be very difficult to know what the word first means. First does not mean that you completely neglect responsibilities. We know that cannot be. That word itself tells you there's a balance. First cannot mean also that you neglect your own health. God never pushed you to that level. So even though he says first, that first is qualified by the fact that you need to know your capacity. And that capacity is balanced in the Bible. It says that no one is obligated to do more than what God expects you to have and to do. In the book of 2 Corinthians, chapter 8. 2 Corinthians chapter 8. He talked about what the Macedonian churches have done. And in the deep poverty, they could do a lot of things. And they were actually having a great trial, as you can see there, and also poverty. And he urged them, follow this good example. But then he says, verse 13, I do not mean that others should be eased and you burdened. In other words, we need to know when loving God with first love becomes a burden and not a delight. Because Jesus says, my yoke is easy and my burden light. So suddenly your burden feels so heavy. And you say, is this God? No. Don't forget, there were a lot of people who serve God religiously and it's a heavy burden. Thinking that religiosity, that fervency of religiosity is first love. It is not. There is a certain balance in first love. If your yoke is very heavy, you got to ask yourself, is this the yoke of Jesus? Because Jesus said, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. So how do we balance that? Galatians. Look at the book of Galatians. That is there. Oh, before I go to Galatians, let me see whether I should read this area. Here, sparingly, when he supplies. Yeah, I think that should be good enough. That, here. Chapter 9, yes. This is in Corinthians chapter 9, before we go to Galatians 6. Let each one give as he purposes in his heart, not grudgingly, or of necessity. For God loves a cheerful giver. See, God doesn't want us to do it grudgingly, or just because there's no other way. It's a necessity. And God intends that everyone do their part. And that's all that God asks. In Galatians chapter 6 is where we want to look at this. Talking about balancing. And notice here, starting from verse 4. Let each one examine his own work, And then he will have rejoicing in himself alone, not in another. For each one shall bear his own load. Each one shall bear his own load. And that's interesting that that instruction is given. That there's some things you have to do. But yet, in verse 2, it contrasts. Bear one another's burdens. And so fulfill the law of Christ. We should love others and love Christ. Now, how do I bear another person's burden? And each one must bear their own burden or load. Where's the balance in that? God does not want a person to overdo some things either, where they're always carrying everybody else's burdens, and the person whose burden is being carried got nothing to carry because everybody is carrying theirs, even his own one. See, the two balance because there are some things a person must be allowed to carry for themselves. No one must cross a line to help. Because in those areas, to help is to hinder. And then there are some things that the Lord will allow, okay, in this area you can help. What a great God we have to balance. So you can imagine that when you help, can also overhelp. Just like as we all know, if your children are learning homework, you can help, but you must not overhelp. You overhelp, they never learn. You underhelp, is too much for them. They do need help. There is that balance of allowing each person to grow and bear their load or burden. But then there are some things that we learn by helping. That is where we come to this point where in okay, let me look at this verse. Where we come to this point in this section here, knowledge of who. But as I say, that was only my first suggested word. Since we already have the who there and learning who others are, this area is actually balance. Oops, oh, I didn't get a color. Oh, it's this one, okay. Balance of, let's say, I don't like the word self, but it's the only way we can convey English. Self-responsibility with community responsibility. There's a balance. Like, for example, if every day you've been cleaning your house, you're doing your best, and then you just have a situation where it overwhelms you, then it's obvious you need help. You need help. Then we could help you there, but we cannot help you every day. But the best illustration is see like the kids, where you can help to a certain extent. And then, but you got to watch and look. Some people are actually drowning because they just cannot manage. And they need to be brought to the situation where perhaps they're drowning because of one of those things, they didn't learn balance. And so they always like drown somebody, save them, drown somebody, save them. It's almost like a person don't know how to handle money, always borrowing money, and then they're always on the next business project, none succeed. So as a result, they're burning other people's money, and but that's not right. So they need to learn to handle their own money. And usually is this, when somebody wants you to invest in all the first thing you need to look at is, can the person handle their own money? And if help is asked because of debt or because of impoverishment or something happened, it's called charity, it's not called investment. Then you might sometimes say, okay, this is the first time you're helping this person. But then it's the second time, third time, fourth time. And here's the question, is it right or wrong now? First time maybe. At which point of time you realize the problem is more than just helping. There's something seriously wrong here. That something must change. Otherwise it's like pouring water into a pot that has a hole. Or pouring money into a wallet that is open and dripping out. It will never be solved, that problem. And as a result, everybody is carrying the burden that person should carry for themselves. So it's like a balance of responsibility. If you want to put it in one word. To learn balance of responsibility. Responsibility of over anything. Everyone has a responsibility of which we have to answer to God. But out of that responsibility is also this. Balance of taking the blame when something goes wrong. You can tell whether a person is a responsible person by their willingness to take the blame. Sometimes, of course people try to be heroic, take all the blame, not necessarily so. You can take all the blame after you explain what everybody's fault is. And people who play the victim, everything something goes wrong, I'm just a victim, kind of thing, are people who never grow up. Such people are really incapable of loving people. If they are in any situation of love, it is because they benefit from it. Or because they see that something good can happen to them. It is not the kind of love that God is wanting to develop. Such people are also incapable of true love, because true love is sacrificial. And sometimes depends on the kind of life we live or we have lived through. Some people have an easier life. And you would think that an easier life person easy to love. Sometimes their love are all very superficial. Because their life has been easy, they have never gone through hard times. A person who has gone through hard times, and in their hard times, they work and sweat and cry and kept themselves awake to support the family out of love. That person has something in order to survive. But the one who has it easy all the time, you think that the people who get it easy in life benefit. Now, remember when it comes to Lazarus, the poor man and the rich man. Remember the words that God spoke to the rich man. When the rich man said, can you send Lazarus to my family to warn them? And then God says, they already got the word. No need someone coming from there to warn them. Can you send Lazarus to quench my thirst and all those? Lazarus was on Abraham's bosom. And the Lord says, you have had a good life. Lazarus has been suffering all the time. Till the dog licked his sores. And he says, now Lazarus is being rewarded. And you are the one suffering. The only difference is, Lazarus suffered temporarily. You are not going to suffer eternally. So what is the benefit of a good life if a person has a poor character coming out? Now you know why, and that's your answer to the question. Why is my life so difficult? Thank you. Because if it doesn't have its challenges, you will never become who you are. Do you know that Winston Churchill was a failure in many areas? And he failed in several things, including elections and all that. Until the final one, when during the war, he rose up. The war showed that this man, who has gone through so many failures, was hardened and trained to be the right man in wartime. And he is a great leader, a very great leader. He never dreamed. Now think about it. Who do you want to lead you if you were a country? And you're facing uncertain times. And then you look around. Leader number one, he has gone through tough times and has proven track record. Leader number two, a life of ease and only promise ease, but no track record. Third one, inexperience. If it comes to where the rubber hits the road, most people want the first leader. Especially if war is about to happen. And you look at the tree, which one can fight the war for you? So remember, God is looking at your life. Each one of you are going to be leaders of nations. What kind of trials and tests await? Depends on what kind of leaders God can use to bring people through. Who are you, you ask? You will only know who are you through tests and trials and tribulation. But here's the other thing that you must also learn. You must learn who others are and respect them for who they are. Right? King David and his mighty men. The mighty men are people who were in distress, in all kinds of situations and all that. But they became a mighty army, 400 strong. They had a few fallouts. Joab has his weaknesses. And at Ziklag, they nearly stoned David. And here's my question. Why didn't David give them up? They did try to kill him. They did say they want to kill him. But did David punish any one of them? In fact, when he went out, a group of them was so emotionally distressed, they could not go. And then, because they're all rough and tough people, some of those who went say, we're not going to share the reward with these people. And David said, no. And he set a rule that those who go out will share with those who stay back. David was a just and fair man. But here's the thing. How many of you will keep a friendship and a relationship of someone who just threatened to kill you? David knew that's not them. See, you need to know people also. People say wrong thing, do wrong thing. People make mistakes. But then you know they're going to come out stronger. That's why Jesus was still confident in Peter. Before he even fell, he says, when you are turned, strengthen your brethren. You're still my leader number one. Huh. Because Jesus knew who he was. Peter didn't know who he was. Jesus knew. You need to know who you are, but to function, you also need this balance. Like I said, this is a balance. It's not just one section. See, balance between spiritual, natural, authority, and freedom. Because without freedom, you won't enjoy authority. We would love enough authority in our life, so things are systematic. But you don't want licentious freedom either. You want some authority that, snip off all the extremes. Then it's a nicer freedom without lawlessness. You need to know who you are, but you need to know who others are. Without knowing who others are, forever your life will be still a very self-centered life. When you know who others are, do you know David, the mighty men, some of them are willing to risk their life to get David one cup of drink. These are his top three. This is a character they have. When David says, if only, in warfare, fighting, if only I had a drink from that lovely well that we know there. The three men heard it, planned while everybody was resting. They fought all the way there. I think that is in the thick of enemy camp. They fought all the way, killed don't know how many hundreds. Then took their time to take water. They might have drank it a bit, but they took some for David. Then enemy has surrounded them already. Fought all the way back till they came to David and says, here's the drink you wanted. Who are these people? They were the top three of the best of the best of the best. And David said, this is not more valuable than gold. It's H2O, but more valuable than gold. And he poured it, he says, too precious for my lips, for my thirst. Let's all together offer it to God. That's why God loved David. This is the kind of man that he was. And talk about me, talk about you, talk about everyone. People have always misinterpreted who the person is. And once in a while, people try to paint you something. Hey, you look, that's not me. You don't believe it, you see after 1 year, that's really not me. 2 years, not me. Then down the road, I continue what we got, and that's really not me. Worse still, go to heaven, check. Is that really me or is this really me? And go to heaven too late already. You want to know who a person is now. And the more experienced you are, the more you can tell. And you can tell. I don't need, let's say, to know Mohan very well. In fact, I've never sat down with you for a meal at all. Not yet anyway. Never drank teh tarik yet with him. Never sat for a meal. Never, had fellowship. I said sometimes you ask questions. You borrow me some books to read. Because straight away, from the books I read, I know who you are. You tell a man by the books he read. And other things. But when I look at him, and he did tell me something about his background, what he's doing, where he came from. Because I did ask. I was interested to know. But I know this is an honest man. He's a man you can depend on. Another thing I know is this man, if I ask him to do something for me, he will get it done. I have not, asked anything. But I also know the burdens he carries. But I know one day he grew to be a very mighty man. And he's a responsible man. I haven't sat down. But a pastor must know their sheep, their strengths, their weaknesses. And then sometimes I've not asked you really to do a major thing yet, because I know you have to earn your living every day. And every time you're here, you could have been driving and earning some extra money. But he loves the word. So this is the picture that is painted to know a person. Then what will be his strength, you ask me? What will be that he can do? I know he will be a great soul winner. Because this man cares for people more than you realize. There's a heart that cares for people. And so there are things that you need to know who a person is. So if one day somebody come and tell me, Johann is a very violent man. I have to compare what you told me with what I know of him. Correct? Now, if, let's say, I have really eaten and drunk teh tarik with him for about, let's say, if we do it once a month, that is 12 times, 3 years, 36 times, and then we ate together, plus all the other times of fellowships and all that. Let's say if we are drank tarik, ate together, talk, and you've been to my house, and I've been to your house, and we have and we went for 3 years. Sometimes we've gone for camps together, we make trips and all that thing. Then wouldn't it say that I should know him better by now? And if he had a little bit of anger issue, I would have at least seen and known that if in 3 years I don't see it, he has definitely some self-control. Whether you want to believe that when every time he leaves the church, he look for a few people to punch. And then back in his house, he would go and kick his dog if he has a dog. You don't have a dog. And then once in a while when his family members, he just like whack them at the back. Then you paint this picture of this man for me. And I say, wait, this doesn't compute. If it doesn't compute, it doesn't compute. And here's the thing. The only time I might believe that is this. Unless I'm invested in this view. Can you see that? When something in me changed, not him, that suddenly I feel that, I'm very angry at him now. I'm very angry at him for no reason. That I really want, and then add to the fact, is Satan is putting anger in me. And I'm very upset. Or maybe, that I think he's about to do something to my father. My father is home, safely in heaven anyway. But let's say, if I think that he's going to do something, and I got myself convinced, or the devil whispered in my mind, he's going to, one day punch your father. But not true. I cannot see the evidence. I cannot feel the evidence. But I believe those words. And let's say I get myself the rage that I believe those things. And then somebody comes with that. You know what? The only reason I would agree with this view is so that I will let this view be the thing that destroy him for me, so he doesn't come after my father, because I believe he will come after my father, which is wrong anyway. Can you see that? It takes 2 wrongs to make that third worst wrong. 2 wrongs doesn't make it right. But the problem is, if I had trusted my instinct of who he is, all these things will not happen. If I stop for a moment and say, wait, even if that is true, shouldn't I, knowing him for 3-4 years, just take him quietly for my 45th teh tarik and say, Johann, are you trying to kill my father? Or maybe let's add a dark weather thing. I've been searching. Are you my father? I would think. So, right? And then I said, and then let his answer, and then I got to figure out whether, and don't look at any evidence or anything, and say, what do you intend to do from now to then? Okay, ask everything that you can, till you deduce whether this that you hear is true, or that you hear is true, and then add to this fact. If that one, somebody accused you of being a violent man, I say, now that I know you, and we have drunk the 45th teh tarik together, would you tell me about this, that some people say you're a violent man? Since I have been with you, you've been to my house, I've been to your house, we ate together, we had Christmas together, we have shared. I say, Mohan, I've never seen you angry at all. I've never seen you upset. I've never seen you done this wrong thing. But people are saying this. Do you have anything to add? Wouldn't it be fair to give him a chance? And that is called knowing who you are and knowing who other people are. When you get that wrong, here's the thing. If you get who you are wrong, like God never called you to be apostle, and you try to be apostle, when God called you to be a prophet, you get that wrong, dangerous. You're in danger from God himself. King Saul is not a priest. When he tried to be a priest, he himself lost his kingdom. Nobody need to do anything. He loses his own kingdom. So, when you're not a prophet, and you correct a prophet, something is wrong somewhere. When you have no idea about certain level of revelation, and you try to correct that level of revelation, when you yourself have no revelations, something is wrong somewhere. Let someone who has revelations talk about that revelations and correct them. And you must know who you are. You must know who other people are. You must know others as well as you know you. So the question, if you make a mistake here, the problem could be either. Either you don't know who you really are. That's why you make those mistakes. Or you don't really know who those people are. They are good people and you keep painting them bad people. And now, you know what will happen? The benefits of those good people will never flow your way now. You just try to kill them, try to shoot them down, try to bombard them, try to throw cannonballs, try to throw nuclear bombs, hoping that they cease existing. But they survive, they exist, grew stronger, and God is still with them. You know what? The best thing to do? Humble yourself and admit you were wrong about them. Who they are was perceived wrongly. Because two persons cannot be right on the truth that they disagree on, or a matter that is disagree. So we will cease to here. Next week we will finish this one. Okay. I know you love to continue, but a lot of these ones here, they are full spiritually. And then we still got one more session next week, and we finish. The reason we touched on this is that you can never have first love if you don't clear these areas and balance this area in your life. Cannot have first love. You learn first love by being responsible. You learn the balance of responsibility. You learn first love by relating to all kinds of people. Friends, parents, loved ones. And you learn first love by having some principles that govern your life. Love without principles is not love. Philippians chapter 1, I will close with that. Philippians chapter 1 tells us here, Paul says, in their love for God, I thank God for the remembrance of them. But in verse 9, I pray that your love may abound still more and more in knowledge, in all discernment, and that you may approve the things that are excellent. Approve the things that are excellent is, the first part is the knowledge one, box one. The second part, to be able to approve things, is approve friendship. Have friendships relationship. You approve people, disapprove people. These are all part of life. But last part, that you may be sincere and without offense till the day of Christ. Being sincere means true to yourself. You know who you are. And being open with your eyes and ears to see the sincerity of people. When people accuse others of lies or wrong thing or that, you know what they're accusing? That person is not sincere, not true to themselves. You can tell when a person is not true to themselves. I mean, it's easy, not hard. A lie cannot be perpetually sustained, but truth can. Truth is easily sustained. And this is how the police department and every other department can find out about lies. You know why? The more you cross-examine a liar or a lie, the more it's inconsistent. The more words they speak, the more it goes all over. But when it comes to truth, you can cross-examine a person 1,000,000 times, you come out still the same thing. And then you might, go other information, dig other, all this is consistency that will always come out. It's easy to support truth because the more the words, the greater and clearer the truth when it's true. But with lies, the more the words, the more the lie is obvious. Truth has a sincerity. Say, how do I know where people are? The first thing is this. Are they sincere people? Are they trying to be plastic, hiding things? Or are they true? You could feel their heart when they speak. I didn't say whether they got weaknesses or no weaknesses, because everybody has weaknesses and strength. So that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is the person being honest with me and true? And here's the thing. Do you notice that some people, when they talk, already got insincerity? Have you met those people? Egoistic people. People with something to hide. People who don't like you to know who they really are. Who they really are, same question. Cannot be sincere. Sincerity can only come when you don't mind people knowing who you are, and you don't mind knowing people for who they are. Like if Johann, which I know, you have some sort of apartment, but if you have lived secretly next to some coconut tree next to the beach with a little atap hut, in the form of a little tent, and every day been bathing on a public bathing thing, and too shy for me to know, then if I'm his friend, I'd rather know that. And if that's the best it can, and I can't really help in that situation, once in a while, then we will sit in a tent together and drink teh tarik in his tent. And maybe, once in a while, invite him to my place for a good shower instead of going to the public shower. Sincere is better than a friendship that every time I want to visit Johann, you say, Miang la, mai la, next day la, postpone la, next year la, or he rather doesn't want me to know his true condition. And he paint this picture of him living, on Orchard Road and one of those condos and all that. Something will be wrong. He doesn't, of course, I'm just illustrating. Sincerity. You ask this question, Pastor, how do I can try to know myself. How do I know others? Look for sincerity. Philippians. Hear the heartbeat. Is the person trying to hide anything, or the person is allowing you to know who they are as they are? Because everyone is still growing. Being sincere and honest is the best way. Nothing to hide. Nothing to hide. People who have something to hide is afraid of everybody who agree and disagree with them being present. You got nothing to hide who you are. People with something to hide will only have people who agree with them around. Because they really build up this thing that they want. When you got nothing to hide, you open your life as it is. It's only when you got something to hide. Of course, everything has its proper time. You don't blast to the whole world, everything in your whole life. First of all, the whole world might not be interested. But there's always times to review various levels of truth. Let's go to God in prayer. Father, we thank you for your grace and your mercy. We ask, oh Father God, that you continue to reveal to each one of us how to grow in our first love. And definitely, these points about our love growing in knowledge and discernment. Our love growing in approval, we always wonder what that is. It's relationships. And our love growing in sincerity. And let each one's love grow in that, so that they end up with a high degree of first love. For you yourselves, Jesus, you spoke of sincerity when you say, I don't like you lukewarm. I rather you either be hot or cold. Because at least we are cold, we know we are cold. You rather us to be sincere and honest with you. So Father, we thank you that you release this into each heart and life. As we examine our lives, so that we can become people who love you with first love. Thank you for your grace. In Jesus' name, amen. Praise God. Give you a good clap offering.